Revenue says. Yeah, or late expenditures, or 3286, 538.
Let me know when you're ready to go.
Okay,
Hey, we're just waiting on Heather.
We are ready to go. Are you
Oh,
ready
okay.
to go?
2286.
just one second.
Time's up.
Oh,
Zero.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Right on the money.
that's on that camera.
No, it's not.
Right on the money.
Okay, we are good.
Wait, what? What did I miss?
I'm on this end of the board.
That's a smart move.
All right, well, we will start.
We're good to go.
Welcome and to the Village of Webster Budget Workshop here on Tuesday, 15th. So we last week took a look at the proposed initial look here at the budget, and it looks like there have been some changes, some significant changes actually, between last week and this week in terms of where things are. So I guess at this point, I will turn it over to Marcia to clue us in as to things like.
Okay. Oh, before we start on that, this thing is on the bottom of your packet. This is the thing that you and I looked over earlier today, Daryl.
Right.
I made a spreadsheet where these assumptions at the top, you can change any of those inputs and see what the debt reserve flow, cash flow is going to look like under various circumstances. So this particular one, this shows, you know, best guess, of course, who knows what's going to happen, of what our debt reserve would look like if we kept our sewer rates the same this year, and then next year bumped it to 220. Okay, thank you. As you can see, going down up to 300 in 2036. If we did those bumps and everything else was as projected, then our, we should have enough money every year to pay off this debt, this bond, the new bond. So anyway, we can, if that's something, because the spreadsheet is variable, I guess I can share the whole document with you guys. Or you can just talk about this later, because we don't need to do any budgeting for that this year. I was just looking a little further out. Sound good?
Yeah, I don't think we need, yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Okay, changes that I made since last week. I increased, just to be super pessimistic, I increased the utility expenses by 25% in both funds. And I increased the historians line. I think I left that completely blank last time for discussion, but I put a number in there. Last week I had forgotten to include the first payment for the flush truck in the sewer fund. That's a little over 78,000, so now that's in there. Okay, I put some ARPA in the general fund and some in the sewer fund. Once we officially put ARPA funds in the sewer fund, we can't take them back out. So I didn't want to put any, however much we want to put in there eventually. I figure we might want something for something else, which I'll come back to that in a second. So far, so good?
Yep.
Okay. Then, provided, yeah, I put 400,000, the sewer surplus is slated for reserve funds on the budget. However, I'm not sure how the fund balance is gonna look, and we need to grow that to a healthy place before we start funding a reserve. So just for budgeting purposes, it's in reserve funds. Okay, then we've got, last week there was some confusion about the sewer revenue, the commercial sewer revenue, why it was lower than this year. That's because I made a mistake. So that has been corrected. Now we're looking at the same EDU-based revenue as we're looking at for this year.
Okay.
So that's an increase of about 170,000. Okay, next I took 50,000 from the vehicle and equipment reserve, since we're not taking any this year. And I added some money to the contingency accounts. Where are they? 27.5 for general and 33-ish for sewer.
I want to give numbers, Marcia. I don't follow you in terms of looking quickly through here to find those things, so if you would do that, please, instead of just,
So he's asking, say, AA
in other words,
1329.
contingency, I had to look through it,
Yeah,
and
much
et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Of course.
Okay?
Lost.
Okay.
Yeah, it's,
It's,
Is it just the contingency, or do you want me to back up and?
you might want to adapt.
Yeah.
Okay.
She is saying, in her defense, she is calling out the name.
I know.
but there's
All
not
right.
easier to find.
Gotcha.
Okay, back to utilities then. That is A 1620s. And G, where are they? 8130.4. There are a handful of those. Just let me know when you're ready for the next one. I know there are a ton of numbers.
Okay.
Okay?
Good.
Okay, the historian's line is 7510,400. It's near the top of the third page. And for that line, I had forgotten that we put the water bill for the museum on that line as well. So in the notes column on the right, there's a little breakdown of what this number represents.
That was a specific ask from the board, that question.
Yeah.
According to my notes.
Okay.
Ready for the next one? Okay. The flush truck payment is in G 8130-200. Last time, we just had the telehandler and the snow pushers, so now I've added in the flush truck.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. The ARPA revenue is in pink on the first page of sewer. And then the 400,000 to reserves for sewer is on the bottom of the second page, 9901.
We got- No, okay.
Okay. The commercial sewer revenue is G 2122 and 1030. Both of those are affected by any change in the per unit price. So now those two lines are exactly the same as they are for the current year.
That makes it easier, Marge.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, the vehicle and equipment reserve, that draw shows up on the revenue side. And where is that account? Appropriated reserves, it's the second to last line on the second page.
Oh,
Okay. And while we're on the revenue, the ARPA revenue for general is A 4089010, all again in pink.
Where is it?
The small one, on the revenue side.
Okay, and then the last thing is the contingency accounts. For sewer, that's 1990.400. Oh, it's 1990.400 for each of them, each fund. We should be current.
1990.
Those are all the changes.
Sewer. 1990.
When you're ready, I would like to say a couple things about the ARPA funds.
Yeah, that's a little secret copy.
That's a hell of a change.
Does anybody have questions so far?
I don't think Daryl does by the look on his face.
Okay. Looking at this projected budget that we talked about a week ago, it's 1,000,005, and now we're at 2 million, basically 2,000,002
Which fund are you looking at?
sewer.
The sewer one, oh, I failed to mention, I have
$700,000 increase.
I have two columns here. One includes the EFC project money, and one does not.
Without and with, that's the difference.
That's over 600,000.
Yeah.
She's over there rubbing her hands together to get this.
The poster over there in the
I'm just gonna wait till nobody's looking down anymore.
Speak.
I think Daryl's still watching something. You're ready.
Okay. I wanted to put a bee in your bonnet about, I know, I'm from the 30s or whatever it is, but, about spending the ARPA funds. We have a little over 580,000, and I know we've been talking about putting a large part of it in sewer so that we can grow our funding. But I think it's also worth considering, Daryl was saying something about putting some of it toward parks to bolster our Parks and Rec fund. And I also would like to propose that some of it go toward premium pay, especially since inflation is at some ridiculous, like 7% right now, that even if we took a chunk, maybe 15 or 20,000 and put it toward that would go a long way. So that does not need to be decided for this budget, but just putting it out there while ARPA is on our minds.
American. What is it, ARPA again?
American
Recovery?
Rescue, yeah.
Recovery.
American Recovery Plan Act.
And I thought I saw that in your notes here someplace. Where is that?
The ARPA money is in pink.
Yeah.
Pink.
Yeah.
What's this?
No, it's on the revenue side, on the second page, kind of a small one, for the revenue, and I just got into the last, in general, it's the second from the bottom, I think.
Okay. Okay.
There's not many pink things on here. So just
No.
ARPA.
Yeah.
ARPA. There it is. Arms.
And are you guys familiar with the premium pay concept?
Why don't you give us a little more detail?
Okay.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Could I have some more detail?
I said, you don't want to define that.
We
I saw it.
have the option to temporarily boost essential workers' pay. And that can be done, there's a lot of flexibility in terms of whether you do it in a lump sum or you just increase their pay for a certain period, or you can pretty much work it however you want, but the idea is to compensate your essential workers for working through the pandemic, because we had to. There are some requirements about who qualifies, but all of the village employees do qualify. We're really just thinking about the union guys though, but I mean, however you guys want to do it would be fine. And that can happen at any point, is we've got, you know, a couple more years to spend that ARPA money or to designate it.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy to send out some more detail about how you designate or how you determine who qualifies, if you would like.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
That non-recurring?
Yes. So one way that it could work would be you calculate employees, like the number of hours they worked, and say, okay, if we want to end up with this amount going to them, then it would be an increase of like 50 cents an hour or $1 an hour for this set period. Like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'll send that out, and then you guys would need to decide, you know, how much and who and how that would all work.
I think if this board's interested in doing that, I would be in favor of across the board, not just this section. think if everybody was here
I
through the
simply
pandemic, it
agree.
includes everybody. in my mind.
Yeah, I really, the guys were outstanding, so yeah.
Okay.
And I don't want to speak for the office, but I think if there's a certain degree or certain, I think that, you know, we didn't miss a snowstorm, a sewer call,
Oh, gosh.
everything worked, and these guys are, from my perspective, and obviously in the front office, sometimes, where the rubber meets the road and where people, so, I would think if there's if it's possible, if it's something that you pursue, and if you move it forward at all, I think that the guys would be the first
Mhm, absolutely.
priority, I guess. if you
Yeah.
will, me.
Yeah, the museum was so happy with how everything was handled through this horrible year. They really, I mean, every meeting that I go to over there, they say, geez, you thank the guy, they're just overjoyed with them. So, good job, John.
Well, I meant everybody, but yeah.
Oh, no,
Yeah, I'm flexible when to,
You got, you and
this
Jerry.
certain sections, just, anyone that's done this, which has been a lot of people that have used this money, I think it's just been consistent
Yeah,
across your.
across the board.
Picking out a certain group.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well,
Huh?
Final thoughts, if
Okay.
Well, I don't really have anything else to present, but I can field whatever comments and questions we have.
When you're saying across the board, what are you talking about, Jerry?
On to all the village employees that are eligible for this should receive it.
I agree. They give us $10 extra?
It's hard to say, and I support everything the guys did, absolutely, and what they do, and it's just a different type of job, so I don't think because their roles, they're just different roles. And everyone went through the same problems and did things that they didn't normally do, and work from home, still trying to get things done, so I think I support it, and I think it should be across the board.
Thank you. I will say the office did a wonderful job at being there, having to go in and, get everything done because the village has to run. So everybody did a great job.
I think the board did too.
Yeah, well,
Especially,
yeah.
Well, there is an increase for the board as well. We need to figure out though the answer for the zoning board and the historian.
All right, thank you. In this budget, last week we were talking about, well, maybe if the historian's line gets a little bump because of that payroll tax that all the stipend people should. But Lynn is the only one who has not gotten a significant, well, relative to their pay, a significant bump over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The zoning board got a 30% in December of 2020 when we joined those. And the band got a bump, I think 2 years ago.
No, I cut it. I don't think they got one.
Oh,
They didn't.
okay.
No. We cut it when COVID was happening and, yeah,
All right, 'cause then
yeah. And they're just now they've actually been using this room for their practices, so that's been great. Yeah, been helping Tom Indiano out is really great to us, and he's been using this room and we're not here for rehearsal. They've been in, was it Jake, do you know if it was Tuesdays or Wednesdays when the band was practicing in here? It's gonna be be the majority of March and April and May, I believe, as well, in here. Because they were having some trouble with the school district getting to practice there, so.
Okay, I think Tom's, the band eliminated a couple of positions, but we didn't cut the budget. So the individuals, the two people who are receiving pay, got more.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. So Lynn is the only person who has not seen an increase. So I would recommend, I don't think that it's, unfair to just bump her account up some.
Would you be willing to use your, or put them on for that?
What she did, did she come in here? Did she stay home? What did she do?
We might want to ask her. What did Lynn do during the pandemic?
Don't know.
Will
She
be,
stay home?
No,
But that was-
she was over.
Yeah, this
the
is-
museum.
this isn't having to do with.
Yeah, this is our budget moving forward, so that has nothing to do with what she did.
Right.
Pandemic,
Oh, I apologize. If you want to explain,
right?
they weren't here, I don't know if you had a chance to tell them why she even came in to ask for it. They didn't, maybe they
Well, I
didn't.
have no
But
problem.
she- I think you told us it was me.
Yes, they, when we moved her to stipend, she's paying a little bit more now because it's.
Sorry,
No, you're good, go ahead.
in payroll tax. When she was an employee, we paid half and she paid half. Now she has to pay the whole thing.
Yeah, completely understood.
Yeah. So she had come in and asked, and I mean, none of the other zoning board members or anyone had really said anything, but they also they did just receive an increase when we combined the boards
Mhm.
because,
Yeah.
less people.
Yeah.
So we do need to decide if you guys are okay with putting that hurt up to compensate for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a yes?
Wasn't that in here?
It's in there, but I didn't want it to just slide through without,
I don't think we're voting on the budget today.
no.
Just want to confirm with the numbers.
Yes.
Ah,
So, Parks and Rec and general expenditure is nothing.
Where are you looking?
Parks and Rec, under general expenditures, down at the bottom, AA 7140, 200.
Yep.
And it says P&R funds, Parks and Rec funds.
Yeah. Well, those are their own fund. So we could add to that from the general fund. But we didn't have a plan for anything, and we have, I think, a little over 200,000 in the Parks and Rec, the designated fund.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good, that's good.
But if you want to use more, we could use some ARPA money for that and just do a budget mod to pull what we want to do.
Is there a plan for Shands Park?
We're working on some plans. Remember a few years ago, we did a grant. Some of the plans were trying to modify the existing,
There you go.
modify the existing tennis courts, to go from 2 to 1, improve the parking in that area, and put in new fences along there. And I know they're started working on it today a little bit with the, or yesterday, with the basketball court itself. Those fences were kind of atrocious at the end, and things were growing in them, so got those out. The backstop fence is out. We're talking about doing a natural, like a arborvitae or something on the end, so that you can still block the ball, but it won't, it doesn't have the same,
Maintenance issues.
Yes.
maintenance issues.
Yeah.
And it's a little nicer, and it adds, gives you sound deadening as well, so, there's some more benefits to that. And then looking at repainting, redoing the surfaces on those, and possibly looking at, pickleball has become very, very
Yeah.
popular, so I'm
Yes.
trying to do, modify one of the courts so we can use it as well.
Yeah.
There
But
any,
again,
is
some of the parks and rec stuff.
Yeah.
there anybody who's using the, baseball fields, Jake?
I don't know.
That's kind of gone by the wayside in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think there's still some softball teams that use it. I don't know if they have games there, but I think they practice, but I haven't heard, I think the last, probably a couple of years ago, the last time I really had somebody inquiring about using that and getting something, new scheduling out there. So
Didn't they play like the 1890s softball or something there?
No, there was, there were Rattlers, I think was one of the, I know when my kid played, that's where, they played, I forgot 12U, 14U or whatever it was, they played there. They were on the smaller field before they moved up to a larger field, and softball was there as well. I think there's some girls softball teams that use that, and then, Warthogs asked about it one time, which is a different organization, so. But I think, I don't know if any of them have an organized practice there, I have not heard. I think it's kind of a,
It would be nice to get it used if it's
Yeah.
there.
I think it's something that if they have practices there, they kind of work out amongst themselves, that it's open and go out there and,
Is there any way to get the word out for them to say, hey?
yeah, I could definitely see, I don't know if I know who's involved anymore, but I know somebody that probably would. So,
Yeah, just to
Yeah.
see,
well, one of the things there is, so many of the fields, there's a lot of equipment that's required to really do the baseball field properly.
Yes.
So years ago, there was a gentleman that ran one of the leagues for softball and did baseball. He called me up when I first started here and said, please don't touch it. I said, no problem. He wanted to do it, he mowed it with his hand more, he's just
Oh,
very
wow.
particular. He went up and got
Oh, I don't
clay from the Red Wings field, got clay, put it into the back of his Ford Explorer, and was putting that, making the mound and stuff like that, so he asked us not to touch it, so, I said, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
no problem.
it's nice to have people like
Yeah.
that around. We don't have a lot of them anymore. Well, yeah, but even if you get the word out and see if anybody wants to use it, and if
That's
they
good.
do want to use it, what the heck do we need to do with it?
Yeah, one of the things that we've talked about for years is trying to improve the drainage.
Yeah,
There, so, I think I've said it a bunch of times, but we got other parks because they were too wet to build it,
yeah.
basically. That's the majority of the parks that, they're donated by the developer when,
Exactly.
Case Park has streets laid out. We got a map with streets laid out through there. It was too wet, so they said, no, here you go.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And as John, Shins is pretty wet.
Now, if there's a league that will use it, then I think they need to pay. I don't think we offer it just gratis
Oh, I think if,
and not.
it's.
If they want to maintain it, it's a different conversation.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, it's,
Exactly.
I think it's certainly, if there's a level of expectation where we've got a big groomer in and things like that, I think that's, that's one of the issues, if it's, we can maintain it to pick up games or something like that, practice there, but if you want to have tournaments there, expect one and grooming in between.
Exactly.
We don't have people that are working on the weekends, we don't have that stuff, so, yeah.
Find another do-gooder and,
Yeah, well, it's nice to have it, nice to have it used.
yeah.
look into yet, an increase we think of parking and moving the fence over at,
Woolmery?
in
Yeah, we've got plans that we drew up a number of years ago, and that's, again, that would be an improvement that would come out of the Parks and Rec. I believe that would be an eligible capital improvement that would be a separate, not that separate fund. You know, that wouldn't go into this budget, it has its own fund and own budget really, right?
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
Good job, Marcia.
Marcia's the best.
I'm here all week.
Well, she's gonna be able to fill that more.
Her head's getting
Let's talk about the bid and WIDA a little bit.
Okay.
Is it 19,000 that goes to WIDA and then they give their money to the bid?
No.
Yes,
Two
ma'am.
different organizations.
I know.
Bid does their own taxes.
Yeah. Right.
That's
Here we go again.
No, you turned my, but, no, I did check with Matt about that. No, he doesn't give part of that to the bid.
Why do you select that?
Someone did, I don't know what.
School district contributes 25. Town contributes 25. We're contributing 19. The bid, I believe, is around 3. I'm not positive.
When we give the bid,
$3,000. And then
when we don't give it, that's from the taxpayer money, right? And then it's funded by us. So that money that we give to the bid is completely funded by their own taxes, and they pay into that.
But it shows here as an expenditure.
Well, I
Okay.
think this account, I believe this account just needs to be renamed. Did we used to fund
Not to my knowledge,
bid?
I'm not sure.
I don't know
I
why
don't think
this
that's.
is.
Why is there so much, question marks with all this bid and WIDA?
I don't,
because we renamed accounts, I think. The bid, as far as I know, the only thing we do for, is bid is manpower during certain events, and then sometimes there was funds in for like the Christmas or for the Halloween or for the events or for the movies. I think there was a time when there's
Yep.
movies that were covered or certain things like that, I believe.
So maybe this line is used as kind of a parking lot if we're in between reimbursements or something like that.
So what you're doing is receiving taxes from the businesses, and then you're turning around and paying out to the bid and to WIDA.
Yep.
And it says here it's a total of $19,000.
well, WIDA is not taxpayer dollars, that's, the village pays into that.
And how much is that?
That's the 19,
Yep.
How much is the bid?
just whatever they, I think, what did we say, it was 2,000 to 3,000? And that's,
Well, no.
what was it? He just, Daryl just said, I wasn't sure, but,
The bid tax?
yes.
It's, I want to say 20,000 plus. But we don't budget for that because it comes in from the tax.
And there might be a bid event that maybe we put in with Jazz Fest, I don't know, Jake, would you know, maybe that would have something to do with it, or we might pay part of that?
We have, like for Jazz Fest, the towers on the street where we put up the lights and things like that.
Yeah.
We pay for those towers,
Yep.
or the rental of those towers and the lights, and obviously the labor when we're doing events and things like that.
Okay, so that could be that.
And I think I remember, like I said, movies, when they do movies in the park, I remember seeing bills for that before, but I didn't know if that was just
And I feel like that's in celebrations, is that celebrations?
Celebrations?
Yeah. I don't think
Yeah,
that's.
there's the EA line there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so, and Marcia went through and cleaned up all of the budget lines and made them cohesive with what they're supposed to be.
We really
with-
need
Yeah.
that.
With the.
OSC
OSC.
has, no, you have to use certain accounts for certain things, and some of them weren't quite aligned, so now they are.
Okay, so just to make it clear, then, a payout of $19,000 goes to WIDA,
Yep,
And what goes to the bid?
only the tax that we collect from the tax bills.
And how much is it?
About 22,000?
And where does it show in here?
It doesn't. Because it's not our money.
We
This
just
is a
like to-
budget, our
it's not
budget,
ours.
it's not that this isn't the.
Like what Chase just explained, it's kind of like a pass-through, like with the Restore New York grant. We don't get any of that money, we just put it on to the building owner. Same thing here, it's not gonna go in our budget because it doesn't affect us in any way, we just pay out for them. We collect it for them.
Then you should remove bid from 6989 to 400.
Well, there might be some types of bid events that we put in, and that might have been what it was before, I'm not sure. We can do some more digging. And we haven't had many events lately, so it might be hard for us to, might not be as clear. So we'll look into that.
But it might be a good idea if that 19, which it is currently designated to Rita, that the bid be separated from that. If that's incorrect.
It is.
It is separate, it's completely separate.
Okay, because it's on the same line, bid.
No,
At least
it's
what
not.
he's talking about, the 6989,400 bid and we.
Well, I can just remove the word bid from that line. That confused me when I started, that confuses people every time we look at the budget, so I'm just gonna change the name.
That's good, that's good.
Just one more question though.
I mean, that's
Do
fine.
you write a check to the bid?
I do,
Okay. And that should be expenditures?
no.
Yeah, I had such a hard time with
So
this.
the bid, they collect extra, the bid itself on our tax bills has their own little rate, that they collect those taxes.
Yep.
So they, when we collect the taxes, they say, oh, this is the village tax, here's the bid stuff.
Right.
Just pass it on, they
Just pass us through.
Oh,
it.
so it's through.
Okay, it's their own money, they're
Now
giving back
our
to
money.
them.
Okay, all right.
That's not collected by the resident. Running a business.
Yeah. So you, 19,000 goes to WIDO, right? Is there an accountability for their money?
Yes.
Yes.
Daryl, you're on the board, right?
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah, but,
Well, I mean, how do you spend your $19,000?
so when Matt Chatfield comes in here and he gives us his presentations twice a year, he tells you what he's working on throughout the year.
Yeah,
Right, and so we reap many benefits of that.
I agree with that.
So that's what he does, and I'm sure if you wanna ask him to come more frequently, he can update us.
He's coming next meeting as well.
Okay,
Right.
And because we determined that they are their own LDC, that an agreement is not needed with them. That's what we determined with the OSC, so we don't need to do anything, but that was why we just had that one with WASPs not so long ago, the agreement with Lynn, just so that everything, any money we're paying out is, covered and.
To make sure it's not, it doesn't qualify as a gift.
Correct.
We had to go through all that. What does LDC stand for again?
Local Development Corporation.
What she said.
Okay.
First,
Usually ask you.
I know, 1 point for Heather.
All right, 500 to 1.
LLC, which is a what? LLC?
Her head's getting small, mine's getting bigger.
okay, thank you.
Is it help?
No,
No?
I'll look.
Well, just recently, we've got 870, I think, down there, 870 grand for North Ave, all the improvements down there. 230 grand for the BOA, 1.8 million for the roads.
So if
Those are all things that were,
Exactly.
derived from the, Matt, or the Lena's, the work product.
Oh, I'm not questioning what he does for us. That's not,
Then, what, are-
No, I think you did, you
I
asked
understand what you're saying.
accountability, so, what's the
Yeah,
accountability?
we already have his accountability. He's doing a great job, I agree with that.
Right.
I never,
Alright, maybe we're missing something, is what you're trying to ask.
So
this 19,000 goes into
it
a
goes into
pot
the
that
pot,
the school and the town
Goes
put
into a
into for math. Yeah,
and it's broken down,
I understand.
and that pot pays his salary
Right.
as well as other things that are involved in that we that.
Yeah. I understand.
He used to have, for example, he held not like a symposium, he had developers coming in at one time, and into that several years, he had that, and put on a breakfast. Had them come in and
Sure.
presented, to them opportunities here, and,
Okay.
Jerry's packing up.
Again, I say thank you, Marcia, very nice work.
My pleasure.
yes, we're so happy to have you.
Thanks.
I'm blessed to work with you every day.
And again, I'm just fading into the
You had to leave
background.
already?
Disappeared, gone.
Oh, I'm glad I said that.
there's something. I have, this is just a question, maybe I can give this to Jake. What's the ramp at Vets Park?
He's gone.
The ramp at Vets Park is
The
the.
budget is here,
Yeah.
I don't quite get that.
This ramp going up to the gazebo.
Yeah,
There's a issue with the fasteners going into the ramp last year, and it wasn't when I noticed it when I was not on it at the time. Before anybody makes that assumption, it was falling in and collapsing down. It was down about like this, so we've got plans to try to get that rebuilt. I think would be the best way to go about it in there. So it's not it was not a good thing. I think we noticed it right before Santa was going up.
I'm just wondering, because you have facility repairs, this year we've spent 2,800 so far, and next year only budgeted the 1,800, but you want to do that ramp, and I don't know what other repairs there might be. It might be a little low since we budgeted 3,000.
This year some of this I think was, I believe the rental went in there too. We did the bandstand down on Phillips Road. They did some refinishing on that and lights in there and things like
New
that.
lights?
Yeah, we want to still do some of the plaques that are there. We have to try to figure out, I think one of them they've got over at Papa Reggio's.
Yeah.
We're trying to get a good picture of Stan Marzak, the one that was in there, was scratched up terribly, and we were looking for a new picture. I thought Heather was gonna be a very little.
I wasn't yelling. You're
Okay.
doing good.
So, I know, well, that's something we're gonna get back up there. And I think that one was fixed, I think more than once. So we wanna try to figure out where we can put it. And try to keep it nice, so.
Hey, Marcia, next meeting, we'll sit here.
Fire.
Thanks, Jeff.
I have a question, Jake. Are you gonna redo the steps in Vets Park?
Yes, that's part of it is, it's something. Masons are apparently all very, very busy. But that's one of the, obviously that sign, we were talking about that sign again, as we're getting into spring, that one on North Avenue. Either we're just gonna,
If you need someone, let me know.
okay, yes,
Yeah, it takes you about 5.
For that?
yeah.
The steps in Vets Park are
Yeah,
good?
no, we've got somebody that's gonna do those, and he was gonna rebuild the thing. I know Clancy was working on him getting an updated quote, because he has a quote, he was coming in October of last year. So obviously he hasn't done that yet.
Right.
But we redid the one set of steps already, so we're gonna go redo the other one. When they built that, I don't know if it was here, but there was no drainage behind it. And so, with the landscape, or excuse me, with those landscape stones and things, and the retaining walls, there's no drainage behind it. And
It's
it
just
moves all over the place, and that's what it did. There are no, and no fabric, nothing to tie it back into the wall either, so. Yes,
Good.
but yeah, that's on
Okay.
with that spark as well.
Will they put some holes towards the bottom of that, so the water that drains into that, the wall, retaining wall, behind the retaining wall can come out?
If anything they take down, we're gonna put like a drain tile in there so that it can get into that pipe. And did we put it in, we rebuilt between the steps in the north a few years ago. So if we tie in, tie off of that and continue on. We haven't gone all the way around back yet. Certainly this south end of it doesn't seem like it's that bad. But there's a lot of issues, seems like, with the
God, all you have to do is look at you now and wow, I'm getting good.
looks like daggers flying. I mean,
Yeah, those steps are in tough shape.
yeah.
Oh, boy,
How about the village signs, north and south?
Yes, and the one on North Avenue, somebody hit it with a landscape trailer, I suspect, a few years ago, and we've got quotes that were pretty excessive, I believe, to repair those. So one of the things if you remember, the North Ave project is going to be kind of try to be like a catalyst for doing, spread that out through the rest of the village. So we have that one sign on North Ave, it's on the south side of Orchard Street, not necessarily at our line, but, it's because the true village line is 2 houses north of Orchard Street, on that side of the road. So, well, I guess on both sides there, but, so what we're looking at, ultimately, if we could rebuild or build 3 additional signs like the one we have, in the place of the existing signs. Like they were updated one, we could put the planner on and, have them look, the W on it, and the house on one, but it's, yeah, there's something, so,
Lots of projects.
yeah. And it's
We don't like to be
manpower,
bored.
and it's manpower, it's really tough with, and those are something that's such a specialty, and there's very few that do cobblestone. Still, ones are all cobblestone, so. And then some of the, it's interesting.
If you need any other names of the government, just
We did have one of the people from the Garden Club there, son, I think, does sort of stuff he did like,
yeah, because that's all.
That's with Marshall's Bond.
Chase probably picked
Those
up the
are
river
that's your
treatment.
bond.
The B in the back. Is it only 7?
That's, it says it's still 61 Tuesday.
I've been here all week.
I know.
Yeah, because you didn't answer my calendar invites that you requested.
I think I did.
Almost. You can continue to socialize, but it'll be.
What is the gazebo called up there? 15-104.
Pavilion.
Well,
What do we
meet in
refer
terms
to
of
it?
formal
The
business.
pavilion.
And we are opening up the social club.
We'll close the meeting in any formal business unless we can. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, we can continue.
Now we can talk about